Welcome back to Bombastic Nation and Ting and Ting and Ting. I'm Mr. Giant and I'm back with some more vibes for all you. Now, I have done a video about 11 misconceptions about the Second World War. This one is called Top 10 Misconceptions About World War One, the Great War Special. You know what I mean? So let's check out the misconceptions. Look, let me drop some thank yous and thing, you know what I mean? Thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for commenting. Thank you all, man. People have been giving me some very cool comments, letting me know that they enjoy watching my video. And the one person commented that it helped them relieve stress and thing like that. Man, that's really cool. I uh, I didn't think I would have that sort of a impact on people. I watch these videos because I actually really love watching these videos, and I really love learning new things. You know what I mean? This next set of is going to be more about culture and stuff like that. I want to put in the history stuff there too, but I really want to get to know some people and thing. You know what I mean? So comment down in the comment section. Just talk to me. You know what I mean? Uh, I remember the days of having pen pals from different parts of the world. And now we have YouTube. We don't need to do the pen pal thing. You know what I mean? We could just communicate with each other here, okay? Let's go ahead and YouTube and Simmer and see what the 10 misconceptions about World War One is.
There's been a lot more coverage of the Second World War than the First, as most of you are no doubt aware. And we've noticed that probably because of that lack of coverage, people have a lot of misconceptions about the First World War, how and where it happened and who was fighting it. And we're going to try to fix that today. I'm Indy Nidell. Welcome to a Great War special episode, the top 10 popular misconceptions about the war. Number 10, Russia was only a second-grade military power in the First World War. Not true. Russia may have left the war after
Who
the
taught
revolution,
that?
and certainly the Great Retreat and disasters like the Battle of Tannenberg don't exactly make the Russian military record shine. The Russian army was anything but a pushover. At this time, 100 years ago, they were just romping through eastern Anatolia, and the Brusilov offensive and the innovative tactics it used came seriously close to knocking Austria out of the war, or even collapsing the entire Austro-Hungarian Empire. It certainly broke the back of their army. The enormous growth and modernization of the Russian military industry by 1916 was also nothing to sneeze at. Number 9.
Okay, now as far as that is concerned, it just depends on who you hear it from, I think. You know what I mean? It's easy to dilute Russia's contribution. And I'm not saying, oh, Russia great, Russia this, America this, and that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's quite possible that in Russia they sort of downplay the American influential, what you say, or participation in those wars. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, Russia's got this parade, Remembrance Day or something they call it, and it was all to commemorate the people who died in the Second World War, and how many millions, that I can't remember the exact number. I was like, wow, I didn't know that. But that's because I'm on the side of the world where all we learn of is one group's contribution. You know what I'm saying? We don't learn about everybody's contribution. Right or wrong, that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? We're going to educate our the people around us to look at us the way we want them to see us. Right or wrong, that's just the way it is. Let's continue here and YouTube there and Simmer, see what I go on with the rest of this. Let's see what number 9 is.
Number 9, everything has already been said about the war. No, new stuff is being discovered all the time, like that Edith Cavell actually was spying for Britain, or that Falkenhayn's claim that the Battle of Verdun was to bleed France to death is quite likely an invention after the fact. Files are being declassified even now, 100 years after the war. Who knows what we're going to find out? Number 8, the Germans were the bad guys in the war. Really? Since they were the bad guys in World War II and wartime stories of the bloodthirsty Huns circulated in Allied media, they had to be the bad guys, right? And they got all the blame at Versailles in 1919. That has to count for something. Well, not so much. Was it Germany's fault that the whole house of cards came crashing down? That the war escalated into the horror that it did? Not so much more than anybody else in Europe, who all had outdated ideas about the necessity of the war and how to pursue it. And sure, you do have episodes like the rape of Belgium, but atrocities were committed by all sides. The Armenian genocide and the massacres committed by the Russians in East Prussia in 1914 spring to mind. Just because somebody is the enemy doesn't mean that they're the bad guy. Sometimes there is no bad guy. Sometimes everyone is the bad guy. Number 7.
Oh, wow. I love how he said that. I love how he said that. Sometimes everybody is the bad guy. But of course, we're going to teach our people, because we want them to remain patriotic, that we're always the good guys. But in a war, who is the bad guy and who is the good guy? From my experience, when there's a war and thing, patriotism goes out the window. It's survival. I mean, because of what I've experienced, I'm thinking that is the essence of war. You dump people in a situation and it's survival mode. Yeah, the patriotism might make somebody do something, but it's survival, man. Human instinct. They're trying to kill me. I'm gonna kill them. Even though you got dumped in the situation, even though you got shipped over to the situation or shipped into the situation. Survival. So most people who they consider heroes are just survival specialists. They survived an incredibly traumatizing situation. But psychologically speaking, did they really survive? Because you relive that stuff in your head over and over again. Some people just don't function in it. Some people do. The question is, the people who do, are they prone to that? Or did their worldview and thing change after that? Do they come back and say, I don't want nobody to go through this? Peace and love, peace and love. Or do they want to go, when is the next one? I don't think most people go, when is the next one? I really don't. Okay, let's continue with number 7 here.
7. The war in the skies was a gentleman's war. The Flying Aces, like the Red Baron and Billy Bishop, they were the rock stars of the war, gliding above the carnage and fighting man-to-man chivalrously, except, again, not so much. They were fighting with machine guns, and they were most often flying in formations by the second half of the war, when the average life expectancy of the pilots could be measured in hours. And never forget, the perfect kill happened when the enemy never saw you coming. Number 6, World War I was a European war, not a world war. Not true. It had its origins in Europe, and there was certainly a lot of the fighting done in Europe, but once the Ottoman Empire joined, you should have a clue how it would spread. Even before that, Japan fought against Germany. The United States and Brazil would eventually join the war. There were battles in the South Pacific and the South Atlantic. Soldiers from every continent, except Antarctica, would fight. And of course, there was fighting all over Africa, mainly by colonial overlords, but there were fronts in Persia, Mesopotamia, Libya, and even the borders of India. Definitely a world war here.
Wow.
Number 5, the war was only fought in the trenches. The trenches are the symbol of World War I, and while they appear on pretty much every front, the vast trench networks were only really common on the Western Front. In the deserts or the huge open spaces of the Eastern Front, cavalry played a bigger role, and huge trench systems would have been most often impossible to maintain. Number 4, tactics.
See, the trench war, from what I've seen and I've read, was a brutal war. hand to hand, they just jumping into each other and stuff. And of course, they romanticize it by making it the symbol of the First World War. The brave men fighting in the trenches under like horrible conditions, and like he said, there was other fighting going on other places. What about those guys? Was it any better? How come that one isn't emphasized? But they were fighting sort of conventional on land wars there. This one they were dug in like moles, you know what I mean? And then mud and rain and all kinds of crazy stuff. What a better way to prove the brave and to romanticize stuff than to use that sort of an image. You know what I mean? I might not be making sense to you, but I'm making sense to myself, I think, and I hope I'm making sense to you. It got romanticized.
During the war didn't change. It's easy to think that, looking at the week-by-week carnage, how we cover it, but if you look at tactics in 1914 and those in 1918, it would be difficult to find many real similarities. The stalemate across the various fronts pretty much forced tactical innovation. Heck, the war saw the advent of mechanized mobile warfare, and certainly the techniques Hitler's Wehrmacht used at the beginning of World War II grew directly out of those used at the end of World War I.
Wow.
Number 3, navies did not play a real part in World War I. Well, the biggest battle in naval history, the Battle of Jutland, happened in World War I. Britain's Atlantic blockade of Germany was a big factor in depriving Germany of supplies. There were countless naval skirmishes all over the war. Germany tried to turn the tide of war with unrestricted U-boat warfare, and if you look at the Mediterranean, the major powers there were using their navies to block each other. There were also great stories of German raiders like the Möwe or the Emden, which you should definitely check out there. Number 2, the German army wasn't defeated in World War I. Yes, they were. They endured far longer than anyone could have imagined, and their final offensives in 1918 were real forces to be reckoned with. But the state of the army by the summer of 1918 was catastrophic in terms of supplies and morale. And the state of their allies was worse. Austria-Hungary never really recovered after 1916. The Ottoman Empire had huge problems even before the war, and the Bulgarian army collapsed. The German army did call for a ceasefire before the Allies broke through the Hindenburg Line, which they would have done. Number 1, World War I was mainly fought on the Western Front. There was the Eastern Front, the Serbian Front, the Italian Front, the Salonika Front, Gallipoli,
Wow.
the Persian Front, the Mesopotamian Front, the Palestine Front, the Libyan Front, the Caucasus Front, the Romanian Front, East Africa, Southwest Africa, Cameroon, the War at Sea, the Arab Revolt. Did I miss anything? The Western Front was but a fraction, and not even a big fraction, of the total of the First World War. Okay, well that is my list for now. Now no doubt you have many things you disagree with, or many others you'd like to add to the list. Please let us know in the comments. And for anyone new to our channel, you can find over 200 videos about World War I on our channel. But if you're a bit...
Wow. Well, it was a world war, so there'll be different fronts and stuff. I wonder why they emphasize the Western Front. Comment down below if you have any ideas of that. I don't know. Comment down below and let a brother know what you're all thinking and think, you know what I mean? Because generally speaking, I mean, some of the other fronts I know about, but the Cameroon, the Arab Rebellion, what is that stuff? I'm gonna have to look that stuff up. Anyway, man, I'm gonna leave a link in the description of this video, so you guys can go check it out. Check out the channels. He said they have all kinds of stuff on World War One there, which is I'm gonna have to check out myself because I'm not well versed on World War One. Anyway, man, y'all take care of each other, alright? Cool runnings.